Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Vanessa and you're watching the Exploring Oracle, or the Exploracle for short. Today I'll be taking a look at this Oracle deck, the Seed and Sickle Oracle deck by Liminal 11 and art by Fez Inkwright. So these are the sides, the backs. And I have to say that with Liminal 11 decks, the production quality just keeps, getting better and better. I mean, look at that box, right? And even the inside, look at that detail. It's really, really beautiful. So one for the she and one for the crow is what's written here. And so let me just show you. Look at the detail even inside this box here. So I did have the Modern Witch tarot deck. I have rehomed that because of the cardstock, but the problem with that deck is that it slid like that because it didn't have this magnetic closure. And Liminal 11 listened to the feedback and now it's very, very sturdy. So for this deck, it actually comes with two guidebooks. You have here the Dawn Guidebook and the Dusk Guidebook. So the difference here, it says here, So it says here that you use the Dawn Guidebook if you're starting something. So individual cards can be read in two ways, the dawn and the dusk, the rising and the resting, providing advice for every reader whether you're working towards a specific goal. So this is for when you would use the Dawn Guidebook, or focusing on your well-being, which you will be using the Dusk Guidebook. And I find that really interesting because you know me, I love my guidebooks, and here's a deck that has two guidebooks. And it was worth for me to get this deck, even though it is heavily plant-based and most of the plants aren't even available here in the Philippines, so it's not something that I'm familiar with. But I did look at flip-throughs and I found that the art was really intriguing and really beautifully done, and you have these two guidebooks. So that is what sold me on why I got this deck. And let's just take a quick look at the guidebook and what it contains. So you have the foreword, an introduction, a quick reading guide, and then you have the meanings of the cards, the reading of the cards, some spreads, and how it complements the tarot. So for each card, you have a page of a picture and some information. I do have to say that for me, with vision problems, this text is a little bit small. You have a little bit more space here. You could have used a larger font, I think. So the plants, should I say, are divided into seasons, the cards. So you have the ones for spring, summer, fall, and winter. They're not all plants, by the way, but it's heavily nature-based. Then you have some spreads. So we have some spreads at the back that you can take a look at and try out, and about the author. So the same content, or the same content is in the Dusk Guidebook. It's just that the meanings would be different. So later on when we pick a card, I'll read from both of the guidebooks so you have an idea. And let me just set up for the flip through. So I move my crystals aside, and before we take a look at each of the cards, they are matte and the cardstock is good. It's not too thick and it's definitely not flimsy. So I like the cardstock, and these are the backs, which are reversible, although I don't really read reversals, even more so for Oracle decks. Okay, so let's take a look at each of the cards. So it starts with the seed. And as always, feel free to slow down, speed up, or pause if you want to take a closer look at the cards. So I won't hold it up to the camera. You can just take a look at this card here, because I think that sometimes when I do hold it up to the camera, it does get a little bit shaky, and when I rewatch it, it's like, oh, I'm just making myself dizzy, and probably anyone else who watches this. Yeah, cherry. So some of the plants are familiar, but not available here where I live. I am based in the Philippines. We do not have 4 seasons, and a lot of these are not available here. I really like this image. The art is lovely, I just have to say. It's what drew me to get this deck, even though there was a lot of reasons for me not to get it, because I wasn't particularly familiar with it. It's an oracle deck, but there's no keywords on the cards, so you really do have to work with a guidebook. And I do love guidebooks, but sometimes you do just want, if it's an oracle deck, you do just want to have a keyword, right? But I think the system works differently, and it's designed to be, to use, it's designed that you would have to use the guidebook with it. Basil. Daisy, which is actually one of my favorite flowers. I believe there are 54 cards in this deck, so it's a pretty sizable oracle deck. Mushrooms. The illustrations are really, really pretty. And each card is, it's designed differently, so it's not very repetitive, even though you're all looking at basically plants. Especially when it goes into the winter. The dark colors, it's really striking. So here you have some animals as well, some birds. I mean, they look great. Mandrake. Now, a little story about this card deck. When I did try to use this, and since it does have 2 guidebooks, I tried using it, and I would read both the guidebooks and see which message resonated with me. And most of the time when I did that, it felt like none of the messages were landing. So it made me feel like I didn't really connect with the deck. But then I watched a video somewhere that said this deck works better with intention. If you have an intention and you already know from the start whether you will be reading from one of the guidebooks. And when I tried that, it really did give me a better reading. So it's not about choosing afterwards what message would be for you. So, but maybe with the intent, when you shuffle the cards, you already know, are you going to be working on something where you have to, when you want advice and when you're starting a goal, or do you want to focus more on an inward kind of journey, or like a question that would be more focused on looking inwards rather than towards a goal. And I think that worked better for me. As always, I zoomed out a bit so that you can see how this deck shuffles. And this shuffles really well. Doesn't stick, isn't slippery, flexible enough to riffle, but sturdy enough that it doesn't have any bends or bows or anything like that. See, it's really nice. It also overhands really well. And of course, you will be reading for that one. You can also do it this way if you're so inclined. And just for the purpose of this sample reading, I will be reading off both guidebooks, but like I said before, it might be better that while you shuffle, you already know which guidebook you will be using. Okay, so we will be reading for number 8, Magnolia. And that's another thing that I like about this deck, that it is numbered, and it makes it easier for you to look for the corresponding entry in the book. So I will be starting with the Dawn guidebook. It won't focus. Yeah, the Dawn guidebook for Magnolia, and then I'll read from the Dusk guidebook after. So, Magnolia. When magnolias bloom, the flowers come out long before the leaves do. This miraculous flowering gives them an advantage over other plants which are still busy putting out their first leaves. But it's only possible as a result of careful preparation the season before that allows them to beat the trend. If you want to be one step ahead of others, it may not be possible immediately, but now is a good time to prepare for the next season and make sure that you have everything you need to be the first to blossom. So yeah, that's a really nice entry from the Dawn guidebook, and it does kind of push you towards something, a goal, right? And then I'll be reading you the excerpt from the Dusk guidebook, and so that you'll have an idea of how it reads and how does it compare against the other. Alright, now we will be reading from the Dusk guidebook. Fossils of magnolia trees have been found to date back as far as 100 million years ago, practically unchanged from how they are today. They even predate bees, evolving alongside pollinating beetles. The gentle dignity of these trees displays a stability and grace throughout the ever-shifting ages, something we can all afford to learn from. Even if it feels as though the world about you is constantly changing, draw on the magnolia's quiet endurance and persevere. The time will be right for you again soon. So yeah, that's the difference between the Dawn and the Dusk guidebook for the Seed and Sickle Oracle. Really something that would benefit having an intention before you ask, before you shuffle, before you ask a question, so that you have a more direct, answer. Because if you do read from both, you're gonna just think, oh, which message do I need to hear today, and all that, and it becomes murky really, really fast. So I'm speaking from my own experience. Of course, it might be different for you. You do you, and if you like reading from both guidebooks, then keep doing that. But please try having a clear intention in mind before you do, and I think that it would help you have a better reading as well. Anyway, my name is Vanessa. Thank you for watching. I hope you like that. Please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. I would really appreciate it, and I will see you again next time. Bye!